Hello guys, what is up? My name is Dylan. Welcome to the Popcorn Podcast. I hope everyone is doing fantastic as always. What I watched in August. Let's not waste any time, let's get straight into it. So guys, 21 entries in the month of August, 21 entries over 31 days, I believe. On the 1st of August, I watched a film called Not Okay, which is a new premiere on Disney Plus and Hulu, I believe. And it stars Zoe Dutch, who I really like as an actress. I think she's really underrated actually. And she plays a character who, in order to sort of up her social media presence, she fakes a trip abroad and sort of takes advantage of a real life tragedy. And the film is about this character and how her life changes as a result and the consequences as a result of doing this. It was an interesting watch to say the least, and I thought the performances were good. Where the film didn't work for me was its tone. I think it's really difficult to sort of meld comedy and sort of a serious tone well together. There's only really a handful of films that I think really succeed with that, and I think that unfortunately the tones were too sort of clashing, and I found it really jarring, and I didn't enjoy the film overall as a result. I think there are some really good social commentaries present here, but it almost feels like there are two different films within this one film. I felt like there was a lack of cohesion. So 2.5 out of 5 stars for me with Not Okay. On the 3rd, I watched Bullet Train, which is the latest action flick from director David Leitch, who did Deadpool 2, I believe, and he's an uncredited director on the first John Wick film, if I'm remembering correctly. The film, of course, stars an absolutely insane cast with Brad Pitt leading the bunch. I thought this was really, really fun. It's David Leitch. He shoots action in a really innovative way, and it's never boring. The story is not the best, but the characters and the performances and like I said, the action, the visuals are all good enough to make this a really enjoyable watch, and that is essentially what I had with Bullet Train. I had a lot of fun with the film. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5 stars. On the 7th, I watched Prey, which might be the most surprising film of the year for me. In fact, I think I'm actually going to up my rating to a 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely love this film. I think it is, bar the first Predator film, the best in the series, and I know that's not saying much since the other ones aren't that great, but this one just worked for me. It was really simple in its premise. I thought the protagonist was great. The Predator itself in this film was incredible, and just, it's all that you want from a Predator film, and the film doesn't overstay its runtime. It's a really concise and well packaged action film. Yeah, really enjoyed this one. It might be one of my favorites for the entire year, if I'm being completely honest. On the 8th, I rewatched 21 and Over, which was one of my favorite films in my teens. I absolutely love this film. It's very much a guilty pleasure. Yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed watching this film when I was sort of like 14, 15, I think. It has Miles Teller pre-Whiplash. So very different Miles Teller back then, I think. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I had a rewatch of this film, and I was once again laughing. Just was like one of those films that I just threw on because I couldn't pick anything to watch. You know, when you're in one of those moods, you just pick it's almost like a comfort film for me. So on the 9th, I watched Spotlight. Finally, it's taken me far too long to get around to watching this, and of course it's a great film, a really good film. I don't know whether or not it should have won Best Picture. I probably would have given it to The Revenant or Mad Max that year, but nevertheless, it's a really engrossing watch. The power of this film is in its screenplay and its performances. The cast is amazing, just a really engrossing watch. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen, and that's weird because this film is very much substance over style. There's not anything really interesting going on visually, but like I said, the screenplay is really good. You just get hooked into this story. It's obviously a true life story, which makes it even more shocking. But yeah, 4 out of 5 stars for me for Spotlight. So on the 10th, I rewatched Get Out. This is of course Jordan Peele's directorial debut. I don't really know what to say about this film that hasn't been said before. It is one of the best horror films of the 2010s for sure. An incredible directorial debut by Mr. Peele himself. Daniel Kaluuya absolutely owns this film. The script is incredible. 9 out of 10 for me, 4.5 out of 5 stars for me. On the 11th, I rewatched Us, which is Jordan Peele's, of course, his second film. Not as strong as Get Out, if you ask me, but still pretty solid. I think Lupita Nyong'o's performance here is really, really overlooked, in my opinion. There is one scene where every time I watch it, it sort of sends chills down my spine. Yeah, Us, another really, really solid film from Jordan Peele. And then I watched Nope, which is, of course, Mr. Peele's most recent film. I really, really enjoyed Nope. I loved the way it was shot. That, for me, just proves how diverse Jordan Peele is as a director. Sort of, this is his, definitely by far his biggest film. Just the variety of stories that he's able to tell from a really small and intimate scale in Get Out, and then slowly, film by film, he's increasing that scale. And Nope is just a marvel to look at, if you ask me. A lot of people have said that it is his weakest film, and I can understand why some people would say that. The story doesn't really have an overarching commentary like his other two films do, or at least I didn't think that there was this big overarching commentary. I just enjoyed it for what it was. A lot of people are describing it as Jaws but in the air, which I thought was quite a cool comparison. Obviously nowhere near as good as Jaws, but still, nevertheless, I had a lot of fun with Nope. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it, I will leave a link to my 1-minute review of the film down in the description box down below. On the 14th, I rewatched Thor: Love and Thunder, 3 out of 5 stars. Yeah, by no means the MCU's best film. It's definitely on the weaker end for me, 3 out of 5 stars. On the 14th, later on that night, I finally watched Suspiria, the 1977 horror. A lot of people call it masterpiece, and I can definitely see why. I mean, this has to be one of the most visually delightful films I've seen, in a weird way, because this is very much a horror film, but it's such a... The best way I can describe it is it's a beautiful nightmare of a film. I've never seen color in film used so boldly, if that makes sense, in such a bold manner, I should probably say. I really, really enjoyed Suspiria, the 1977 version, but I didn't enjoy the 2018 version too much. It is directed by Luca Guadagnino, and I like him as a director. I think he's one of the best directors working today, and this is definitely more of a reimagining as opposed to a remake, which I really, really appreciate, because I just don't like it when there's a straight up copy of the original that doesn't really attempt to do anything different. This film definitely attempts to do things differently. The performances are great. Tilda Swinton is fantastic, Mia Goth, Dakota Johnson. But for me, I thought the film was too long, and I thought it was too disjointed. I got a little bored at some points. Overall, whilst there are definitely some really impressive things in the film, it just didn't come together for me in the end. And that's a shame, because the talent behind the camera, in front of the camera, is amazing. But yeah, just a film that I just didn't really get on board with. On the 16th, I rewatched Nope. On the 17th, I rewatched The Mummy, and of course, this was one of my favorite films growing up as a kid. After having got over the horror aspects of this film, I used to get nightmares so many times after watching The Mummy as a kid. I want to say it's a guilty pleasure, but at the same time, I actually think this film is pretty good. Like, I've given it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's so much fun. The cast is amazing. Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz. Yeah, it's the best mummy film. On the 20th, I watched Creep, which is a found footage horror film, which you can find on Netflix. And yeah, creepy stuff. It's quite short as well. It's like only an hour and 15 minutes, which I thought is a good length for a film like this. I thought it was definitely an interesting watch, but I couldn't give it any more than a 3 out of 5 stars, and I can't really tell you why. There was one scene, in fact, I'll tell you what, there's one scene where I was really, really like uncomfortable watching. There's one shot, and that is probably what I remember this film for. If you are a horror fanatic and you haven't seen this film, I definitely recommend it to you. Like I said, if you do enjoy horror films, it's a very different type of horror film. We get a lot of found footage horror films these days, but this one is one of the best ones with regards to it being really close and contained, just being really effective in its simplicity. But in Creep 2, that I watched 2 days later, this was also equally as good. I thought it took a different type of direction, which I appreciated. It didn't just try and copy the first. 3 out of 5 stars for me. On the 23rd, I watched Bodies, 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 and I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. I thought the premise was great. It's a horror slasher social commentary on Gen Z, which I found both really entertaining and hilarious. I recommend checking Bodies out as well if you do like art house horror films. It's great. On the 25th, I watched Orphan, which I'm surprised I haven't seen sooner. I didn't feel like this film was particularly scary in the typical horror sense, but once things are revealed, just thinking about it is the scary part. I was more uncomfortable after the film had finished than when I was watching it. But nevertheless, I think the performances are great. The film is really well directed. Leonardo DiCaprio produced this film actually, which was a name I didn't expect to see pop up on the opening credits, but there you go. Vera Farmiga is in this, and of course she is like one of the queens of modern horror films for sure. But yeah, on the 26th I watched the sequel to Orphan, which is actually not a sequel, a prequel I should say, Orphan First Kill. I thought that this was entertaining. It really isn't as strong as the first film, but there are some interesting things that happen and some interesting direction that I didn't see coming, so fair play to this film for doing that and surprising me in that aspect. On the 29th, I watched Incantation, which is a Taiwanese horror film on Netflix. This film actually really surprised me. I don't get scared that much when watching horror films that come out in today's era, but Incantation, I thought some scenes were genuinely terrifying in this film. It is a found footage film that is done really well in my opinion. I don't want to say too much on this film because I do want you to go and check it out and see for yourself whether or not it lives up to the hype. I don't want to overhype this film, but I was surprised with the Incantation. 3.5 out of 5 stars for me. On the 30th, I watched Freaky, which is another horror slash, you know what, August is sounding a lot like October. I don't know why I've watched so many horror films this month, but hey, here we are. On the 30th, like I said, I watched Freaky. It's a horror, but it's also a comedy slasher as well. Vince Vaughn plays a serial killer and he swaps bodies with a teenage girl. So the teenage girl is in Vince Vaughn's body and Vince Vaughn is in the teenage girl's body, and it's really funny. The opening scene was the standout scene for me. I thought that the film had pretty inventive kills, so I'll give it that, but no more than a 2.5 out of 5 stars for me. On the 31st, to end of the month, I rewatched The Terminator, and this time I saw it in the cinema, so I ticked that one off the list of films that I need to see in the cinema. Terminator, of course, is a classic. I really enjoyed The Terminator. I think it's a really well done film from James Cameron, who of course had such a big impact in redefining the action sci-fi genre and is still pushing the boundaries with this genre. Of course we have Avatar 2 coming out later this year, which is very exciting. The Terminator, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I really enjoy it and I can't wait to see Terminator 2 in the cinema, which if you ask me, spoiler alert, it is one of the greatest sequels of all time, and I can't wait to check that out probably this month. So yeah guys, that is it. That is all the entries that I logged in August 2022. Let me know in the comment section down below what you managed to check out this month and whether or not you have any thoughts on any of the films that I checked out. I would love to chat with you, and of course if you did enjoy the video, be sure to like and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you are new. We talk movies here all the time, so it would be great if you could join the conversation. But anyways guys, thank you so much for checking out the video, and I will catch you very soon in the next.